Well, hi everybody. We're back for the second time today. Joe Rayo and Joe Chaffee on the Joe and Joe Weather Show Part 2, the nighttime version.
The nighttime version,
Right,
yeah.
hosted by Dennis James and not Bob Barker. Um, so, well, here is a situation today that I guess played up every bit to the anticipation of the severe weather that we've been talking about for what seems like days on end. I was impressed. It really, the folks from eastern New Jersey and then down the Jersey Shore, from there east, that area caught. We talked earlier about being in that stretch that when the line develops is when you get the worst of it when it comes to these thunderstorms when they're in the development phase, and I can tell you that they were in the development phase clearly all across Long Island and through southern Connecticut. Numerous severe thunderstorm warnings. We had a tornado warning in the Bronx, which they mentioned a possible rotation or possible severe thunderstorm that could produce a tornado. I don't know that any tornado was actually sighted. I did see a few pictures where it looked like, in some areas where it looked like maybe a funnel cloud was trying to form, but I didn't see anything with regards to an actual tornado touching down. But the weather was pretty cool.
Well, I was disappointed for four reasons.
Four reasons, not
Four,
one, not two, not three, but four reasons.
well,
Okay.
number one, my sister who lives in Throgs Neck and got the announcement from the National Weather Service about the tornado warning because she's just a stone's throw away from East Tremont Avenue. There is an East Tremont section of the Bronx, and there's also East Tremont Avenue. In any case, she sends me a message saying that she just heard the loudest crack of thunder she ever heard in her life, and I was looking forward to some action here. So she hears thunder. Then my brother-in-law in Mineola says that he very very heavy hail which reminded him of rock salt. So it was like pea-sized hail.
Well, yeah, that's a new one.
Also, number three, and I'm going to read his report in a moment. Phil Reisman, who is a very popular columnist in Westchester Magazine and for many years had a column in the Journal News, which serves the lower Hudson Valley. Phil Reisman messaged me on Facebook that he apparently saw a weird phenomenon which sounds every bit like he had ball lightning flying
Really?
to his house, believe it or not.
Wow. Explain to everybody what that is.
Well, it's a relatively rare type of phenomenon, and it looks like usually it's about the size of a grapefruit, and it looks like a ball of light that kind of floats and whizzes around outside. And I have heard of occasions where something like this has actually flown through the window of people's homes.
Really?
In fact, Gene Shepard, the great and late Gene Shepard, famous humorist, once told a story on WOR radio about how he saw ball lightning coming up his block. Everybody was going outside looking at this, and it flew into Mrs. Stryker's house across the street. She was listening to Bing Crosby on the radio. It flew through the window, and all of a sudden you heard Mrs. Stryker go, "Ah!" And then there was an explosion, and it blew the radio up.
Oh God.
But
Uh,
number four, Joe, and this is the biggest disappointment of all, and I knew about this in advance. The biggest disappointment tonight on MeTV, 6 o'clock, and I missed it. The Flintstones episode with Anne Margrock.
oh Jesus.
I missed. I missed
You
Anne
missed it.
Margrock tonight.
Well, I'm sure it'll come on again. You'll see it. You'll see it in the next round of reruns.
Tomorrow night, by the way, on the Flintstones, for all of you Flintstone fans, is the episode where the Rubbles adopt Bam Bam and almost don't get Bam Bam
Oh
because
well, isn't that the
very,
one with Perry
very,
Masonry?
very masonry. So you got to
Yes.
watch that one, Joe.
Yes. By the way, Weather Lady 5149 says she thinks Mount Holly might have had a tornado. I haven't seen any reports yet. I just checked their website to see if they said anything about it, and there's nothing there at this moment. But that doesn't mean that they won't put something up later on. Number
But
of
they
you on.
investigate, right? They'll.
Yeah, they got to check it out.
I
Uh,
mean, it could have been downdraft or straight line winds, but
which is probably more the case, but I don't want to speculate because those were rather hefty cells that moved down, that moved through, and a number of folks on the chat board talking about what they experienced today with these thunderstorms, and in LaChapelle's case, saw the temperature go from 52 to 38 in a very short period of time when the front went by. Between he witnessed quite the wind slash snow event. So, Russ, you must be somewhere upstate. Uh, Let us know where. Uh, he's posting here. Oh, up in Rensselaer, so he's up there.
oh wow.
Well, nice to see folks from up. It's always good. We've got folks from upstate New York that watch the show on a regular basis. The more, the merrier. And now, that's all moved out. I went to tornadohq.com and just to kind of review the thunderstorm, the warnings that went up. That was the only tornado warning that was issued. By the way, there weren't any other ones. There were a number of severe thunderstorm warnings that were put up. But and by the way, again, a few of the Long Island folks going into this today were thinking that it would be the usual, Long Island, the graveyard where thunderstorms go to die, and you know, under springtime conditions, that would be the case. However, this was the difference here was that this was driven strictly from that really powerful upper trough. And I'm going to bring up SPC's um, maps of one of the models that they look at here when it comes to this sort of stuff. I saved it, but this is the latest one, and this is how deep this upper trough was. I mean, this is a very intense cold upper low that was in the northern lakes, and you can see the whole trough just swinging, and these really, really powerful winds, that strong jet of 90 to 100 knots up at 18,000 feet, just swinging around like a gigantic arm, and you got that negative tilt working too, which is always a sign of a system that is very strong. We talked about those V-shaped isobars, very, very sharp isobars where you get that sharp wind shift. And now, of course, the trough is going to be moving through and lifting out overnight and into tomorrow. And you can already see, here's the next one in the southern part of the jet stream. And if you notice, folks, the that whole southern stream and western stream that comes in from the Pacific Ocean into the Pacific Northwest is just one after another, and this is going to be dictating our weather pattern from starting Thursday and taking us right through the middle part of next week. Joe, it really looks like we're in for one of those stretches in spring, and I think we get one at least once every spring, if not multiple times, but certainly at least once. Even in the best of springs, you get into these patterns where the weather is dreary for days and days and days, and maybe you squeeze out a little sun here or a dry period there, but on the whole, it looks pretty miserable.
Well, you know what, Joe? Nature's about to throw us two bones. And bone number one comes tomorrow with sunshine, and the second bone will be on Saturday, and everything else is just bleh. And
Yeah,
that pretty much tells the whole story from
and
now through this time next week.
this is a stretch of weather that you basically need to take advantage of what the nice weather when it comes. Just to show you what's going on around the country tonight, and it really isn't too much happening. Now with the severe weather gone, you've got freeze warnings up for tonight into tomorrow from southern Connecticut and Long Island, west southwest into West Virginia and Ohio, frost in eastern Kentucky and Indiana. And those freeze warnings go down into northern Virginia. Also, we have wind advisories that are up for some areas in Western Virginia, and also from New York City and northeastern New Jersey eastward to southeastern New England. And those wind advisories are up until 2 a.m. I noticed, I went outside a little while ago, and actually there was very little, if any, wind. But it's beginning to pick up a little bit out there. And the other thing I want to focus on in the short range, of course, this is what is left of the convective outlook. So, the risk, obviously, we still have some strong thunderstorms working their way through eastern New England, but they'll be offshore shortly. So we can forget the rest of that risk area. But the risk area for tonight is Oklahoma and North Texas. Tomorrow, that risk area is going to shift eastward with that next weather system. And the Storm Prediction Center has enhanced risk northeast Texas, southeast Oklahoma, southwest Arkansas, northwest Louisiana. And that area is going to push east for day 3. And now we're into the period for Thursday into Friday. It's back into the southeast with a slight risk up to northeastern North Carolina, back through northern Georgia, central Mississippi to southeast Louisiana, and an enhanced risk already on the board for extreme southeastern Louisiana, much of Alabama, Georgia, northern Florida, and southern parts of South. South Carolina is one of those odd states with the borders. I don't know if that you would call that Southwest North Carolina or Southeast North Carolina, but let's just say it's Southern North Carolina and leave it at that. So we've got severe weather action that's going to be going on with these developing lows that are going to be moving from west to east.
It's another round of nasty weather for the southeast. Of course, consecutive Sundays, and that's a pretty large area of enhanced thunderstorm activity. That's what now, Joe? That's day
That's
3?
Thursday into Friday.
Right, right. Why, I tell you. And for us, I mean, the same system that's going to cause all of that is going to be coming right up along the Atlantic seaboard, will be to our south early on Friday. And we're going to have those gusty east northeasterly winds, a cloud filled sky, damp conditions. And I tell you true that it's going to be tough just to get out of the 40s on Friday. And
I guess
Joe,
those forecasts of 60 for Friday are going to be shaved down quite a bit.
oh my goodness,
That was never going to happen.
there's no way in the world we're going to get to 60 or even close to 60. But I was just going to ask you, what do you think about frozen precipitation on Thursday?
On the
Uh,
onset, I think it's not impossible, north and west of the coast. I mean, going up into northern Pennsylvania, upstate New York. If you get a little bit of renegade moisture that runs out ahead into the cold air, and you've got that high to the north that's starting to press down, yeah, why not? Somebody might get the cheapest of cheap thrills in inland areas. Looking at the satellite tonight, you could see the strong rotation from the upper low that's moving through the east. The thunderstorm, the cloud tops are still blowing up in southeastern New England and on up into Maine as that whole area swings eastward. And then out to the west, if you can see the twisting that's down in parts of Arizona and Nevada, that's the next shortwave trough that's swinging east in the southern part of the jet stream. And then you've got the northern part of the jet stream. It's the northern part is not going to phase with the south. Otherwise, we'd be dealing with a major storm going up somewhere into the northeast or up into the Great Lakes. But the northern part of the jet is going to be relaxed enough so that this system doesn't get suppressed. It just basically moves along in the flow, and that southern shortwave is going to amplify somewhat as it does so. So it'll have some oomph to it.
yeah, and somebody on the chat board was asking, said he was going to ask you about when we're going to warm up. And I looked at the Climate Prediction Center, both their 6 to 10 and their 8 to 14-day outlook, and they really have us in the deep freeze, well below normal for the 6 to 10-day period. And we're still below normal when we get to 8 to 14 days. That takes us into the first few days of May.
Yeah.
If you think it's going to warm up to any great degree in the foreseeable future, forget it. It doesn't look like it's going to.
No, it's not, and you're not going to be able to warm things up until we got to get out of the pattern that we're in, and that's just going to take a while. It's just plain and simple. Here's the radar as of 7:15 Eastern time, and we always give that Little disclaimer is that if you're watching this on a replay, you want to check your for the latest goings on your area. Please go to weather.gov, the National Weather Service for the National Weather Service page, and go to your local National Weather Service forecast office page so you can see what's going on in your area. So we've got this precip swinging through Maine. It's moving off the New England coast now, east of Boston, down into the Cape. This radar is probably about 15 or 20 minutes delayed. We've got some popcorn rain and snow showers back in parts of Pennsylvania and western New York, with the upper trough and a little bit of moisture being picked up off the Great Lakes. So some April 21st lake effect going on, which is always
That amazing.
fun.
That's amazing. This late in the season, and we still are seeing lake effect. I hardly saw any at all during the regular winter months, but here we are now. We're now actually more than a month past astronomical spring. Spring this year starting earlier than
We're in
usual.
mid-spring technically.
Yeah. Well, actually mid-spring. We'll be in mid-spring next week. Mid-spring would be like May 5th, I think.
No, I mean by meteorological spring, we're in
Oh,
mid-spring.
meteorological
Yeah,
spring. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So crazy.
Memorial Day is the magic day. And of course, since every day is Sunday under this lockdown or whatever it is we're under, it just feels like nothing's, it just feels like the same day over and over again. Surface map as of 2 o'clock this afternoon. This is what you were looking at, folks. You had this pseudo warm sector. And while it didn't really warm up, clearly it didn't go up into the 70s. But if you look down in Virginia and points south, there it did. So you got to see at least some warming, warmer air that tried to move up. But that really didn't matter because you had a sharp cold front with this deep upper trough, and that really is what dictated. Also, with regards to the Long Island and southern New England and these thunderstorms falling apart, this front moved through. It moved so fast, and the thunderstorms moved through so fast. And then you add, the upper trough, which was the driving force of all of this. The marine air just did not have any time to set up and really come in and cool things down. I know out here, Joe, on Long Island, when the marine layer is a problem, that marine layer gets established early on in the day, and you could feel it. Where it's 70 or better from New York City west, and it's only in the upper 40s to mid 50s here. That was not the case today. It just didn't have time to really get involved. So, um, yeah, the south wind is a killer of thunderstorms once they go east of New Jersey and off the coast and head over into southern New England. But this is a situation where that was not the case. By the way, 7-day rainfall amounts, very bullish because we've got three weather systems. Well, this goes till 0Z Wednesday. So this doesn't even count the weather system that may be coming in here along about Wednesday of next week. So from the next two weather systems, WPC has actually got a blob of 3-inch rains, eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England, and every bit of 2 to 3 inches covering much of the southern parts of the Northeast, the mid-Atlantic states, down into the Carolinas, all the way back into Missouri and Oklahoma and Kansas. It's just a very, very wet-looking next 7 days that we're going to be dealing with.
It's true. It's absolutely true. And I got to tell you, Joe, I really give kudos to the, we sometimes get upset about the way the models handle certain systems. And you and I were on at 12:30. We really didn't see very much happening off to the west of us. We saw the very beginnings of some little popcorn development over in eastern Pennsylvania. But if you looked at that radar and if you looked at everything at that hour, you said, well, where is it? Is it going to develop? But the models, most every one of the models kept saying over and over again, hey, this is going to develop real fast and it's going to be real intense. And sure enough, no sooner after we had signed off for the first go around today, that line just formed, consolidated into a real.
Well, what really, once again, remember this earlier today when I mentioned about the fact that, I put the forecast out. I put my forecast out yesterday in a few minutes. Right after I put it out, they raised the risk area to slight risk. Well, the same thing happened with us today. When we went off the air, the first thing I did was I checked WPC. I'm sorry, I checked the Storm Prediction Center (SPC's) page just to see if they put up a severe thunderstorm watch. Okay, and this was at about 103 or so. I must have missed it by seeing it by literally a handful of seconds because I said, okay, they didn't put the watch up, and then I went up. I went up and made myself some lunch, and put Perry Mason on my DVR, and then I look down on my phone at about 20 of 2, and I see that there's a severe. Not only is a severe thunderstorm watch that they put up, I mean, they just put out a discussion a half an hour before saying there was a 40% chance of them putting up the watch. 30 minutes later, they put the watch up. Why didn't they just put the watch up to begin with? I don't know.
I would have put it up. I would have put it up just. It would be a CYA forecast. You know.
Yeah.
Heck.
Well, I guess whatever they must have saw something between 20 of one and 5 after one to go ahead and put up the watch. I'm not criticizing them. Don't get me wrong, folks. It was more along the lines of my timing because this happens to me a lot where I'm anticipating them to do something and then they just wait for me to turn my head and when I'm not looking and then they do it. So uh, anyhow, let's bring up the models and see what they have to tell us, because it's a glorious wet pattern that we're going into. Joe, I hate the spring. I hate it. I just do. I can't bear it. Days and days where it's miserable, and on top of that, you're stuck in the house anyway. I mean, you look at this upper air that I'm bringing up for today. I mean, this is something out of January and February with this flow from Canada that comes all the way down into the southeastern part of the United States, and you got these deep upper lows that are driving things, and of course you've got this active southern stream with all these short waves. The Pacific is feeding energy. There's a cutoff south of the Aleutians that goes all the way down to Alaska to Hawaii. So you've got the wintertime setup that you would want in the wintertime. But as we move the upper air along, you can see here's the southern trough with the first system for Thursday into Friday, and you can already see little kinks here coming in to the west with a follow-up system. And meanwhile, the northern part of the jet is still intact. You've got higher than normal pressures in the Atlantic, so the NAO is at best neutral, maybe even slightly negative. I didn't really look at the teleconnections today. But then after this first short wave pulls out, here comes the next one, and this is for Sunday. And it amplifies, too, as it moves into the east. And then we're going to get rid of that. And then guess what? Here comes the next one that comes into play along about Wednesday. So that takes care of the next 7 or 8 days. And you still got troughing into the east into May 2nd and 3rd. I'm trying to see if there's any, toward the end of the forecast period, which means you need to be suspect. I mean, right toward the end of the forecast period, the trough in the east kind of pulls out a bit, and you get troughing that's back over in the west. But who knows if that's right anyway? Uh, at least into the first few days of May, this chilly weather pattern is going to continue.
Yeah. If I have to go through a period of unsettled weather, um, this is the worst. To have not one but two significant storms pass to our south, keeping us in the cold, dank, dreary, raw east northeast section. At least if you're going to have a storm, significant storm, send it up to the lakes so that at least we have a bit of a push of milder air to go along with all the wetness. But that's not going to be the
Right.
story. It's going to be very well, grim might be the best word to use to describe the next 7 days, save for tomorrow and again on Saturday. At least we're going to get a 50-50 weekend. But you know what, Joe? Ever since this coronavirus started, every day is a weekend.
It is, I know. And here comes the next one. So here's your system coming out of the southern plains. You've got a low that develops later tomorrow in Oklahoma. You start to see that the GFS is picking up on that, the signature in its radar presentation, where you'll see some thunderstorms and severe weather. That low actually gets down to about a 990-ish low in southern Illinois on Thursday. And now, of course, you bring the severe weather threat into the southeast, and of course the rain to the northeast. There's that northern band that the GFS picks up on, Joe, that you were mentioning. If it gets in here fast enough Thursday morning, maybe a little bit of sleet or a wet snowflake or two for upstate, but it actually disappears by the time you get to the main body of rain in the afternoon. And then the other thing is, here's this high that's up near James Bay. That's basically hanging there and going to be setting up that onshore flow. The low moves off the New Jersey coast. A little improvement, but guess what? Here comes the next one that is on the map on Friday, 1,003 low in northeast Texas, and that runs into southern Illinois and Ohio. Um, Brings in more rain here Saturday night into Sunday, an almost identical track to the one for Thursday. Then it takes until Monday to pull out. You get a break later Monday into Tuesday, and then lo and behold, here comes the next one for Wednesday of next week. So yeah, it's just miserable, a miserable pattern.
People who are developing cabin fever because of the COVID-19 problem. Uh, this is only going to aggravate or accentuate that feeling. These series of just ugly days that are ahead of us. So, as Joe mentioned at the top of the show, take full advantage of tomorrow with the sunshine, and also take full advantage of Saturday, because out of the next 7 days, those are going to be the only 2 days I think that we'll get some dry and sunny conditions. Not anything. The temperatures, normal temperatures at this time of the year here in the lower Hudson Valley should be somewhere in the 62 to 67 range. I must tell you that even with the sunshine we're going to see tomorrow and again on Saturday, we're not going to be anywhere near or even in the ballpark for normal. But
Right.
I think tomorrow, I'm saying for tomorrow, um, mainly sunny, but my goodness, mainly sunny and 49 to 55 for a high temperature in the Hudson Valley tomorrow. And again on Saturday, you got the sunshine, and if we're lucky, we might actually get to uh, within a degree or two of 60. But again, the norm is what, about 64, 65.
Yeah.
For goodness sake, Joe, it's almost May.
I know. I just pulled up while you were talking. I pulled up because I haven't done this in a while. I pulled up the GFS 16-day snowfall map. Uh, still, still showing. Actually, I wasn't paying too close attention, but it does show snow for upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine over the next 16 days, and also in Colorado in the mountains on up through parts of Wyoming and points northwest into the northern Rockies, and even a little bit up in parts of Minnesota and into Wisconsin. I mean, who knows? Uh, some of what you're seeing up in Maine, I want to just go back really quick, take a look at. I'm just kind of curious as to where it all comes from, because I was so focused on the severe weather today that I really didn't get too much of a chance to really go through this with a fine-tooth comb. But actually showing a little bit of snow going on in Maine tonight with this low and cold front as it sweeps on through. So that's no surprise really, because of the cold air coming in behind it. And a little bit of snow, very little with the low on Saturday. A little bit more with the low. The low Thursday into Friday. A little bit more with the system for Saturday into Sunday, and then after that, yeah, not so much after that. I'm guessing that the whatever parameters that are on that map that come up with some of the numbers are a little skewed, particularly this time of year. But we know how much reliability there is on those snowfall forecasts anyway. So I just thought I'd bring it up there for laughs.
WPC, usually when we get to the 1st of May on the winter weather pages, they usually have this one singular graphic that says snowfall totals are, no snowfall maps until later on in the fall or winter. They're going to do that eventually, but then it doesn't look like they're going to be doing that anytime soon over the next week or 10 days or 2 weeks.
Doug Wetzel hitting super chat tonight. Thank you so much. Coffee for both of us, Joe. And I think there's one other person that may have hit
Two
super
actually.
chat. Who's the other one?
It was Doug Wetzel and also Nick Cortese or Cortese
Cortez.
and Izzy D.
And Izzy D, thank you both of you for hitting super chat tonight. Really appreciate it. By the way, the chairman, Scott Briller, is home sick in bed. He has a temperature. I don't know if he's watching tonight. I told him to go make get some soup and go to bed and get through this. He doesn't think it's COVID, you know, God forbid. So let's all keep the chairman in the back, in our thoughts, just to it'll make him feel better knowing that we're thinking of him. But the every day, Joe, I read one other person that I know of, or a friend of a friend that has either has the virus or knows somebody that's passed away from it, and it's just it. You mentioned like over the last week or two how the circle just gets tighter and tighter. I mean, knock on wood, nobody in my family has it, so just I'm thankful for that, and I'm sure
How do
you
you,
are too.
Joe? How do you feel about the fact that I mean, you have your daughter, your son-in-law, your grandkids down in the state of Georgia, and Georgia is opening up now.
Yeah,
Um,
well, all right. So here's the thing, and what one of the things that has really started to get on my nerves in a big way is the fact that when I run, and all of us will have this going on, when you run through your Facebook feed and all you see is all this anger, okay? Anger from, but it's reflexive anger. And I've really come to the conclusion that both, the art, some people are so, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Their political beliefs and stance are so entrenched that they just reflexively react in a certain way and can't seem to step back and look at things with a little bit more objectivity. And I'm talking about folks that on both. I'm talking about folks on both sides of the equation, and I've gotten to the point where really I can't deal with it. I just can't deal with the fact that you've got this one side that it's an absolute denial. You've got this one group of people that are in absolute denial of everything that's going on from the scientific standpoint, that this is it's just a bad cold, it's just a flu, it's all this other stuff. And then you got on the other side, you've look, the reality is it's getting harder and harder every day to stay pinned in your house. People are itching to go back and go to work and get some sort of normalization back to their lives. It's a very, very difficult place that we're in, and I'm tired of reading anger. Okay, I'm tired of reading anger, so I'm kind of like staying away from that part of it, so that I could keep maybe a clearer look. Look, I'm not down in Georgia. They clearly it is worrisome to me, but I do know that my daughter, my son-in-law are doing what they need to do in order to keep themselves protected, and my guess is that they will continue to do that, even though they are loosening some of the restrictions. But you know, I'm looking at what they're doing and thinking, well, it's a they're taking a shot here. There's Sweden. I've been reading about how in Sweden they really haven't done the lockdown, but Sweden only has a population of 10 million people, and their major cities are not nearly as densely populated as New York. So I started thinking, well, you see where all the cases are. They're in New York City, where there's 27,000 people per square mile. Okay, so it's probably no shocker that they have all these cases. I hate to be, going on about this, but since you asked the question, so look, you can criticize the folks of Georgia for the state of Georgia for trying to partially open, but on the other hand, if they do open and there's a certain amount of success to it, if they don't see a huge spike in cases, I mean, I know maybe I'm saying something a little bit controversial here, but maybe I'm trying to be optimistic that the fact that they're doing that, maybe there's a positive finish. There'll be a positive outcome. That other states may be able to look at this and say, okay, look, Georgia opened up. This is how they did it. They had standards. They just said, okay, you need to wear your masks. You need to do this, that, and the other thing. Um, no large gatherings, limiting large gatherings, and then some. And maybe they might achieve success. I'm hoping that's the case because then they could use that as a model to figure out what they're going to do with everybody else. But to just kind of reflexively criticize and in just really nasty ways, I don't think it serves a purpose. I really don't. I just don't think it's helpful uh, to our psyche to getting through all this. So the short answer should have been, yeah, I'm worried.
I'm just looking all of a sudden on the chat board. I mean, the thing about the chat board is the font is so small that I have to move in to see it. And when I move in, then my head grows to fill the entire screen here. But a lot of people were adding their own 2 cents, I guess, to your comments about all of this. Before we forget, let me just I said before at the top of the show that a friend of mine uh, sent me a message on Facebook that he apparently saw a strange phenomenon which sounds every bit like ball lightning. And I wanted to read you verbatim what he sent to me in his message. This is Phil Reisman, and some of you may know who he is. He's a popular columnist for Westchester Magazine for many years. He wrote a column here in the Lower Hudson Valley in the newspaper, the Journal News. And during today's storm, Phil apparently again had an encounter with a rare and little seen meteorological phenomenon, ball lightning. Although amazingly, when I posted this on my Facebook page, a lot of people came back on comments and said, I saw that in 1960 or 1970. Oh, yeah, I saw that once too. Anyway, Phil wrote and said to me today, Hey, Joe, just had a very weird thing happen in my house during the thunder and lightning storm here in Yonkers. I was standing just outside my living room talking to my wife in another room when out of the corner of my eye, I saw a white golf ball sized orb streak across the living room about 7 feet from where I was standing. It happened in a flash. At first, I thought it was an electrical short caused by the storm, but that wasn't the case. The lights, the TV, all the other appliances were not affected. The ball of light, I think, came from the direction of a closed window where we have an air conditioner. Deepening the mystery, my wife found a 2-inch long rectangular block of dark gray ash like material on the top of the air conditioner. She actually held the object in her hand, but it easily crumbled into dust. We don't know where this came from. We don't know what it was or what it could only speculate as to had something to do with the glowing orb. I thought this might have been ball lightning. In any case, it blew my mind, and I thought you might be interested and might have a theory about it. I hope you are well. What can I say? It
That's
sounds like
crazy.
lightning.
Yeah, and it took a line of thunderstorms in April to do it.
Right, right. And I said that was one of the things I missed. I mean, I who was advertising this for several days and really getting excited. I mean, I said last night to my wife, I said I'm getting excited about tomorrow because this is the thing that kind of pulled me into weather to see events like this. And I'm talking about dark skies and lightning and
Oh, I
thunder.
get it.
And all I got really was it got cloudy, it got a bit of rain. That was it. Meanwhile, I'm getting people, my sister with the loud thunder, my brother-in-law getting the pea-sized hail, the ball lightning from my friend Phil Reisman, and I'm sitting here saying, "What about me?"
Well, in these situations, we said this on the early show. Some of you are going to see have a pretty wild afternoon, and some of you may be sitting around saying, what's all the excitement about? Because not much is happening where I am,
Right,
and that's almost always the nature of thunderstorms. Even in widespread thunderstorms, you get these holes that show up, and somebody winds up getting far less than what other folks get. But
I'll tell you.
thankfully, they move through it. And at least so far, I haven't seen anything that said that any spots that got a lot of sustained a lot of damage. And that's a big
That's
plus.
that's here I am blubbering about the fact that I didn't get all this activity. The next time this happens, what's going to happen? Maybe a tree will fall on my house or something.
Well,
I don't
we don't, God forbid.
know. No.
Bright rainbow arc this evening, Len says, behind the thunderstorm that crossed lower Chesapeake Bay. Yeah, the storms didn't time out well for rainbow, for a good rainbow. They needed to come in a little later in the afternoon and early evening for that to happen here. So I don't think I didn't see any rainbow shots. Would have been
Right.
nice too, you know, to have some pretty shots of rainbows put up after these thunderstorms went by, just as a little distraction, maybe give people a little glimmer feeling of hope with all that's happening. So that's it, I guess.
Wikipedia saw a rainbow.
Oh,
Oh,
Chris.
Mrs. Rayo's in the room.
Oh,
Ah, sirens! Whee!
Mrs. Rayo's not in the room. She's in the sewing room next door, making masks.
Oh, okay, very good.
But she just said Christiapedia said that she saw a rainbow, unless that was
Oh yeah,
the
I see. I just see it on the chat board. So what was for dinner tonight, by the way?
I had the most delicious. This is a soup that my wife makes using tomato juice, tomato sauce. How do you make that soup? Here she comes. This is we got to
Did
put
she
the
make a cup of turtle soup and made it snappy?
oh this is
No, I made like an Italian tomato vegetable soup that has got like a whole rope of sausage in it.
Oh my God!
Have grilled and then cut
it's
up and put in
delicious.
the
Oh,
soup.
that's awesome.
In fact, as soon as that we cut out here, I'm going back upstairs for
Have
seconds.
another go.
Well, I had my chuck eye fillet steaks that I did on the cast iron skillet with a baked potato and a salad.
Okay,
And that worked for
that-
me.
that's
Yesterday,
good.
yesterday was pork chop. No, yesterday was chicken. 2 days ago, was it yesterday was chicken? Yeah, yesterday I had chicken leg quarters, baked in the oven, and the day before I had pork chops.
Isn't this such a different thing, Joe, than let's say 6 months ago when right around 5 o'clock you'd be looking for Ivan and saying, "What's for dinner tonight,
Yeah,
Ivan?"
God, God, paying those wonderful those wonderful inflated prices, for like the $12 sandwich
Right,
in Westchester County. $3 for the sandwich and $9 went to the property taxes that the person that owns the establishment has to pay
exactly.
in southern Westchester. I mean, because the property taxes in that whole area are just you literally need to earn a salary to pay the property taxes on some of those homes down there in Westchester County. I don't know how people do it. Uh,
Right.
Either that or they have oil wells, of course,
Oh,
which nowadays are worthless. But go on.
that's why I live in Putnam County. You think I could live in Westchester County?
Oh, I saw. What did I see? Oh my God! Yeah, I saw a story. I think it was on the Daily Voice in Mayapack that they saw bobcats.
Yes,
Yes, yes.
yes, that's true.
Yeah,
It's
okay, it was true. Okay.
Farnstock State Park is just a stone's throw away from where I live, and yeah, we have had reports of bobcats and also lynx roaming around. So I've never seen any of that here. I've seen just about every creature in my backyard under the sun, except for a bear or a bobcat. But
Yeah.
you talk about wildlife.
No, I
We
know. By the
have
way, Rosie O'Donnell, I'm sure not the Rosie O'Donnell, but Rosie O'Donnell, bacon wrapped chicken thighs in the oven. Very good. Yeah, I could do that. Definitely. Mine were in the mine were not bacon wrapped, but I got to think about that next time around and put them on. Reaver wants to know from me, do I recommend sirloin steak? No, I don't. It's too tough. There are far better. Look, if you're going to have a steak, in my opinion, I would rather, you know, spend the extra money and get a good cut of meat. Rather than get a sirloin steak tends to be a bit of a more inexpensive cut of meat. When they go on sale, get a rib steak. That's a steak you can really enjoy. Or what I do sometimes when rib steaks aren't on sale, I get the chuck eye fillet, which is the cut of steak. It's the cut of meat that's right next to the rib steak. So they actually, my butcher friend said that they call that the poor man's ribeye, and it's a very, chuck steaks tend to be very very tough, but the the chuck eye fillet is a very tender piece of meat, relatively tender piece of meat. And I cook it up in the cast iron skillet, and it's delicious. I'd rather have that. I'm not a fan of sirloin. It's just too tough for me. And
Sirloin.
of beef. Earl of Cloves. Mark G says his go-to steak is the New York strip. It's not my fave. It's a good cut of meat. It's a good steak. It's a good cut of steak. It's just not my favorite. I like the fattier rib steak because there's a lot of flavor in that. And then I put garlic all over it, and paprika and olive oil. Or today I used curry butter, and I curry buttered them. Yeah, Bill Uber, I'm with you. It's a good. Nothing beats a good ribeye. Same, Rosie O'Donnell, Chuck or ribeye. Ryan Ford, did I get hit hard with the line out my way? Yeah, actually I did. They flared up and held together fairly nicely. Had a brief heavy rain, uh, but a fair amount of lightning and thunder. It was for a thunderstorm in Suffolk County, which often sees these thunderstorms fall apart. It actually held up pretty well. I'm the kind of guy, Izzy D, to have a pizza oven at home. Well, I guess if I could, I would. One of those pit fired ovens, those brick ovens. I wish I could have one of those. But I do pretty well with the gas stove when I make pizza in there. Oh boy. So let's see. Just running through. Do I know how to make a compound butter? I'm not sure what a compound butter is, Reaver. I've made my own butter uh, with with heavy cream and just with my hand, just mixing it. I've made butter a few times, and it's come out quite good. Have you ever made your own butter, Joe?
No, I've never done that. I've never churned butter before.
Yeah,
Or mixed.
it's actually a lot very it's very very. You don't even have to churn it. You can just, I hand whipped it with a spoon. Put heavy cream in a bowl and just keep, you know whipping it with a wooden spoon. And first it goes until it becomes whipped cream, and then if you keep whipping it, it gradually it turns into butter. And the only thing is you got to squeeze all the buttermilk out with a cheesecloth, and it doesn't last. If you don't get all the buttermilk out, it'll spoil pretty easily. So that's the one downside if you make your own butter.
Homemade bread with
Home
homemade.
churned butter. Oh God, yes.
Paul
Not a
Roman.
fan of London broil, Bobby Livingsworth. It's not my thing. Again, it's I'd rather have a ribeye. Look, if it's in front of me, I'll eat it. But if I have to make the choice, I usually I go for the ribeye.
Well, I like London broil. We have that, but we haven't had London broil in a while.
Oh,
I don't know
good
if you
God.
remember that.
Christina Pedia, room temperature heavy cream, shake it in a closed container. Yeah, yeah. If you buy a container of heavy cream and just shake it, it'll turn into butter.
Yeah.
One thing's for sure, you will never starve if you hang with me.
Speaking of meat or meteor showers, Paul Roman wants to know about meteor showers. Tomorrow morning, if any of you are not doing anything at around 4 a.m., the Lyrid meteor shower is going to peak. It is not one of the major showers of the year, but if you stand outside in a nice dark area, and if it's clear and you look up, you might see something like 10 or 15 shooting stars per hour, about one every 5 minutes. Be advised, however, temperatures will probably be in the 30s, wind chills will probably be in the 20s, skies will probably be clear. I did back when I was very young. I jump out of bed, bundle up, and run outside. But yeah,
Yeah,
at my age right now, it's going to take a while for the brain to send the commands down to my legs to get up
exactly.
and to see and to go outside and take a look.
Pamela Gasper says compound butter is like garlic and herb lemon pepper. I could go for that. I've
I didn't know that we had the food channel all of a sudden here.
Well, it got everybody hungry, I guess.
Oh,
Len pointing out that we have a severe thunderstorm watch that's just been issued for parts of Oklahoma, and that's with the next weather system that's coming east. So, going to be severe weather busy across the south over the next few days. And of course, like we said earlier, our weather is turning down, is going to be turning, I guess, ebb is for miserable.
yep.
All right,
Well,
let's call it a night, shall we?
yeah, we did double duty today.
Yeah, we did, and I'm tired. So,
Maybe that makes it worth considering that sometime later this week we'll take a day off. Maybe
yes.
a miserable day we'll have on Friday.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see how it goes over the next few days. So we'll see you tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel, 7 o'clock Eastern. Thanks everybody for being here. Appreciate it greatly. As Joe said, we were on twice today. So if you want to relive what we had, you can go back and watch it in the video library on my YouTube channel. So have a great evening, and we will see you tomorrow. William Uber, medium rare. And I've never had Branchinelli's pizza, but I'm going to as soon as all of this is over because a few people have told me it's pretty good. So I will give it a whirl. But I'm a medium rare type of guy. Okay, have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.